Hey you. Yeah, you. The one I'm looking at. You didn't subscribe yet, did you? You better hit that button, my man. Enjoy the video. My hair is not dealing with me today. It's not working the way I want it to. It feels like it's in zero G right now, just going wherever it wants to go. In space, there's also zero Gs. And the moon is in space. What a great segue! Oh, that was a horrible segue. But we're talking about Kid Cudi's new album, Man on the Moon 3, The Chosen. This is the return of Kid Cudi. He's back. This is his first solo album since 2016. This is the third installment in Cudi's beloved series of albums, Man on the Moon. He's been one of the most influential artists this generation, with his trippy psychedelic sound and also his introspective lyrics about himself and his mental health. It really took to a wave of listeners that can't really be understated. We wouldn't have a lot of modern rappers and artists without Kid Cudi. When it comes to my personal opinion of Cudi, it is a very, very mixed bag. I do enjoy both Man on the Moon albums. His two albums that are kind of in the middle for me are Satellite Flight, which is and Indica, which I think is a little better, but it's rough around the edges. Oh, and his infamous album, Speeding Bullet to Heaven, is quite frankly one of the worst albums I've heard in the 2010s, but I can give it points for the creative switch up that this album did. And his last solo album, Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying, was really, I liked it a lot, but it was way too bloated and over long for me to keep going back to it. In 2018, which was the last time Kid Cudi was here in full album capacity, he did a collaborative project with Kanye West, Kid See Ghosts, and which is also apparently getting a sequel. I'm not sure. And that was incredible. That was the Cudi that we needed. And now, a couple years later, out of nowhere, after a few acting gigs, he just this past Monday, he announced that Man on the Moon 3 was coming out that Friday. And I was beyond excited. There's a video of me expressing my excitement for this album, but I was also a little skeptical about this. He's had such a spotty solo track record in the last couple of albums, and I was really hoping going into this that this just would not suck. Now that the final product is out, I've listened through it for a couple of times. I gotta say, it's kinda underwhelming, but I'm not really disappointed either. To, we're gonna get the positives out of the way already. I can say without a doubt that this is Cudi's best solo album since the second Men on the Moon. It doesn't feel like Cudi is labeling this as a Man on the Moon album. It has the same vibe and the soundscapes that the other two installments had. But these are this but Men on the Moon 3 is taking inspirations from psychedelic trap and drill music actually, because they're one of the tracks on here features the late Pop Smoke, and also Skepta is on the track. Along with that, as I said, with psychedelic trap, Travis Scott's influence is all over the place. And Cudi had mentioned already that Travis was a big influence to this album. The collaborations on this album, while I'm at it, also are a little underwhelming. The track with Trippie Redd, Rockstar Nights, is okay. I don't really feel that it could have met that potential, although Trippie is kind of on a hot streak right now. His feature on the Rico Nasty album was alright. This was alright. He's already put out stuff better than Pegasus. I feel like this was a rough start to the album. Like a rough start, because it was too much of that Travis Scott influence. And there's nothing wrong with Travis Scott. I love Travis Scott's music. I just feel like that there was too much of that, and I got really, really worried within the first half of the album. That if the whole album was going to sound like the first half, it would have been very, very rough. But thankfully, the second half is a lot stronger. The other collaboration I forgot to mention was with Phoebe Bridgers, and that was also a very, very good track. That song's called "Lovin' Me," which the harmonizing at the end with Phoebe Bridgers and Cudi on this is beautiful. It's kind of beautiful. Um, I I'm also a fan of the concept on this album. There is This is a four act scenario. So Act One looks back, has Cuddy looking back on his former self and reminiscing on these more reckless experiences, which again is the more trap inspired Travis Scott esque sound. Act Two is Cuddy realizing that he's just depressed and struggling with suicidal thoughts, and then he mentions that his time when he was back in a mental hospital in 2016. And Act 3 is Cuddy at his lowest. He tackled his drug addiction. Many tracks further him as needing love, presumably from a female. However, Cuddy isn't getting that love from a female, rather, it's from the drugs he's taking. He's going to overdose on their love, as one of the songs says. He's also thanking God and his fans on the standout track "The Void" for sticking with him, which is an amazing moment for Cudi fans on the album. And the final leg of the album, Act 4, Cudi realizes his identity. He's getting back on track, and he's being in the best place mentally and throughout his entire life, wherever he is. And the album ends off with the track "Lord I Know," which sees Cudi finding peace with himself and settling with this, settling with what he has. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I went into this album really skeptical about how this was going to be, and overall, I'm very satisfied with this. I know that I said earlier that I was a little disappointed in it, but when I was going over my notes and I was figuring out, what am I gonna say? How am I gonna say this? I like this a lot more than I thought I did. This record is really gonna call out to the longtime fans of Kid Cudi, those who've been listening to Erase Me since it came out. In fact, the 3-track run that's actually at the beginning, funny enough, of Tequila Shots, Another Day, and She Knows This could be just one giant song. And on their own, they're not really that special. But if you put them together and realize what kind of ups and downs Cudi has had in his career, and just if you're an overall fan of his in general, it's really, really good. Um, this completely upended what I was gonna say. I'm going like off the record here. Uh, Cudi outdid himself. He really knocked it out of the park with this one. This was a fun experience, although it did have some highs and lows for me. I definitely prefer the second half of this album to the first. He'll he is Because of this, he's become such a unique figure in the industry where some people can say he's one of the greatest artists of all time with having I don't even and his only in my opinion at least his only masterpiece album being with Kanye West, the Kid Cudi Ghost project. But overall, This is like really, really good. And I don't know where he's going to go from here because this could be the final installment in the Man on the Moon series. But there, at the very, very end of the album, there is a little snippet of somebody saying to be continued. So I do not know where this album. Well, this album sits very well in Cudi's discography. This is definitely in the higher rankings of his discography. And even with that, I don't know where he's going to go from here. Although I am really excited about it. So I'm thinking of giving it a 7 out of 10. You know what? A 7 out of 10. That's what I'm giving it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm going to have more content rolling in soon. Stick around. I hope you enjoy.